She researched HOA bylaws. She formed a compliance committee. She printed laminated notices and zip-tied them to orange cones. In all that preparation, she forgot to do one thing. Check who owned the road she drives down every single morning to get home. That road was mine. I walked out my front door at 7:14 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, keys in one hand, travel mug in the other, already thinking about the drive ahead. I had a contractor coming to give me an estimate at 9 o'clock, and I wanted to leave early enough to stop for gas on the way. Instead, I stopped dead on my porch steps. 4 bright orange traffic cones were lined up across the entrance to my driveway, perfectly spaced, deliberately placed. Each one had a small laminated tag zip-tied to the top. White background, neat printed text, and at the bottom of each tag in bold letters. It read, HOA Compliance Committee Authorized Notice. I stood there for a moment, just staring at them, not angry yet, more confused than anything. Because in 11 years of living on this street, I had never once received a complaint, a warning letter, or even a polite knock on the door about anything related to my property. I walked down and read one of the tags more carefully. It cited a section number from the community guidelines. Something about access corridor management and community-controlled approach zones. The language was dense and official-sounding. Exactly the kind of wording designed to make you feel like arguing would be pointless. That's when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, and there was Brenda, walking up the sidewalk with the calm, unhurried pace of someone who had already decided how this conversation was going to end. Clipboard under her arm, reading glasses pushed up on her head. The expression on her face wasn't aggressive. It was something more deliberate than that. It was the look of a person who had prepared for this moment and was quietly enjoying it. Brenda had lived on our street for just under 2 years. In that time, she had attended every single HOA meeting, volunteered for every available committee position, and about 6 months ago had created the compliance committee herself with one other neighbor and a lot of self-assigned authority. I figured you'd have questions, she said, stopping a few feet away. So I wanted to be here when you came out. What is this, Brenda? Your driveway approach runs through a community-controlled corridor, she said, opening her clipboard. The committee has placed a temporary restriction pending a formal usage review. The cones are authorized. Everything is documented. I asked her which board members had approved it. She named 2 people, neither of whom had contacted me directly. I asked if written notice had been delivered, as required under HOA bylaws, before any enforcement action. She said the notice had been processed through proper channels. Processed, not mailed, not hand-delivered. Processed. I kept my voice calm and asked her one more question. What exactly was community-controlled corridor referring to? And that's when she said it, without hesitation. Without any idea what those words meant standing on my property. The shared access road, she said. The one that runs along the side of your lot. That corridor falls under HOA jurisdiction, and your driveway approach connects directly through it. She kept talking after that. Something about review timelines and portal submissions. But I had already stopped listening because those 3 words were ringing in my ears like a bell that couldn't be unrung. The shared access road. I knew exactly which road she meant. It's a short gravel stretch running along the edge of my property. The road that connects the main street to the back half of our cul-de-sac. The road that Brenda herself drove down every single morning to reach her own driveway. And I was almost completely certain that road was not HOA property. I was almost completely certain it was mine. I moved one cone aside, backed my car out, and left without another word. But my mind was already back inside. In the corner of my home office, second drawer of the filing cabinet. On a folder I hadn't opened since the week I signed my closing papers. Because if that folder said what I thought it said, this wasn't about orange cones anymore. I got home at 11:30 and went straight to my office. No detours, no coffee, no checking the mail. I walked through the front door, down the hallway, and directly to the filing cabinet in the corner. The old 2-drawer one I'd had since before I even moved into this house. I pulled open the second drawer and flipped through the folders until I found the one I was looking for. Property. Closing documents. 2013. I carried it to the kitchen table and opened it. It took me about 4 minutes to find exactly what I needed. 4 minutes. Because the folder was thick and the document I was looking for was near the back. A survey addendum attached to the original deed, stamped and signed by the title company, notarized and recorded with the county. I had read it once, 11 years ago, on the day my attorney walked me through it. She had flagged it specifically. I remember that clearly now. She had said, and I could almost hear her voice, "This is an asset. Don't forget, you have it." I had forgotten. For 11 years, I had completely forgotten, but it was all right there in black and white. The gravel road running along the eastern edge of my lot, approximately 180 feet in length, connecting Sycamore Drive to the rear portion of the cul-de-sac, was recorded as a private access road, owned entirely by me. Not the HOA, not the county, not any shared community trust. Me. There was an easement attached, meaning my neighbors had the legal right to use the road for access purposes. That was standard. That was fine. But an easement is not ownership. An easement does not give anyone the right to manage, restrict, or place compliance notices on someone else's private property. Brenda had zip-tied, laminated HOA tags to cones sitting on my road. I sat back in my chair and let that settle for a moment. I picked up the phone and called my attorney. Not to threaten anyone. I want to be clear about that. I called because I wanted to understand exactly where I stood before I did anything at all. The last thing I wanted was to make a move based on incomplete information and end up looking like the unreasonable one. She called me back within the hour. I read her the relevant section of the survey addendum over the phone. There was a brief pause on her end. "That road is yours," she said. "The HOA has zero jurisdiction over it. Zero. Any restriction they placed on it is unenforceable." I asked her what my options were. She listed 3. I won't go into all of them, but the quietest option, the one that required no lawyers and no courtrooms, was also the most direct. As the private road owner, I had the right to formalize the existing easement terms. In plain language, I could define exactly how that road was used, by whom, and under what conditions. I thanked her, hung up, and sat quietly for a minute. Brenda had walked onto my property that morning with a clipboard and a confidence that had no foundation under it. She had cited jurisdictions she didn't have over a road she didn't own to restrict access to a driveway that had nothing to do with any HOA regulation. And now I had a folder, a recorded deed, and an attorney who had just confirmed every word of it. I wasn't angry. That's the honest truth. What I felt was something much calmer than anger. It was clarity. The kind of clarity that tells you exactly what your next move is without any noise around it. I picked up a pen and pulled a fresh sheet of paper toward me. It was time to send Brenda a letter. Not a threatening one, not emotional. Just a short, factual, carefully worded letter. The kind that says everything it needs to say without raising its voice even once. I had a feeling she was going to read it very differently than anything on her clipboard. I kept the letter short. 1 page, 4 paragraphs. No legal threats. No emotional language. No mention of attorneys or courtrooms or anything that might make it feel like an escalation. Just clean, factual sentences. The kind that are impossible to misread and even harder to dismiss. The first paragraph identified the road by its recorded survey description and stated plainly that it was private property owned by me as documented in the county deed records. The second paragraph noted that the HOA Compliance Committee had placed unauthorized notices on said private road without my consent and without any legal standing to do so. The third paragraph referenced the easement, acknowledging my neighbor's right of access, while making clear that right of access was not the same as right of management. And the fourth paragraph was simple. It asked that the cones be removed within 24 hours and requested written confirmation. That the compliance committee understood the road fell entirely outside HOA jurisdiction. I signed it, made 2 copies, and walked 1 copy down to Brenda's door that same evening. She answered on the second knock. I handed her the envelope and said, "I think this explains everything pretty clearly. Take your time reading it." I didn't wait for a response. I just turned and walked back home. The cones were gone by the following morning. It's not moved to the side, not rearranged. Gone. Every single one of them, as if they had never been there at all. I noticed it the moment I stepped outside with my coffee. The driveway entrance was completely clear. The laminated tags, the zip ties, all of it vanished. I stood there for a moment, sipping my coffee in the quiet morning air. No phone call, no note, no response to my letter. Not yet, anyway. Just empty pavement where 4 orange cones had been standing 24 hours earlier. I went back inside and had breakfast. 3 days later, Brenda knocked on my door. I opened it, and she was standing on my porch. No clipboard this time. No lanyard, no reading glasses pushed up on her head. Just her hands clasped in front of her, with the careful expression of someone who had spent several days rehearsing what they were about to say. "I think we may have gotten off on the wrong foot," she started, "and I wanted to come by and see if there was a way we could, move forward, neighborly." I looked at her for a moment. No frustration, no satisfaction either, really. Just a straightforward conversation between 2 neighbors on a front porch. "Brenda," I said, "I don't have any hard feelings, but I do want to be honest with you." She nodded. "Before you put something in writing, before you place anything on a property, before you cite jurisdiction over something, it's worth taking the time to find out who actually owns it." That's all this was. She was quiet for a second. Then she gave a small, tight nod, the kind that acknowledges something without fully saying so out loud. "That's fair," she said. "Good," I said. "Then we're fine." I wished her a good afternoon and closed the door gently. The compliance committee, as far as I could tell, went considerably quieter after that. No new notices appeared on anyone's property that month. The HOA portal didn't light up with fresh enforcement actions. Things on the street returned to exactly what they had been before. Calm, ordinary, unremarkable. And the gravel road along the side of my property kept right on doing what it had always done. It carried people home, including Brenda. Every single morning.